Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Tom Stewart here. Our guest today is Sharon Cowan, and this is Smart Business Moves. Hey, Sharon, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me. This is
Oh,
great.
really excited for you to be able to join us. It's been a while since we've actually talked. I know I run into you at convention every once in a while and
Yeah,
other live events.
yeah, it has been a while. Yeah. Well, it's great
So,
to be here. And you guys are doing such a great service with this vehicle that you're using, this method you're getting information out to people. It's wonderful.
well, thank you. We have a lot of fun with it. It's an opportunity to get together and chat with leaders in the cleaning industry and share some thoughts that hopefully will be useful to people.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I know that you've got a lot of expertise and experience, in the general cleaning world and residential, commercial, a lot of different things. And we were talking earlier that this is your first time on Smart Business Moves. I can't believe that. I mean, we've been doing this for
I
4 years, and we've never had you as a guest.
know. I know that Liz did ask me a couple of times and the timing just didn't work out. So I'm glad we finally got this to work.
We
Yeah.
tried. So, but
Yeah.
we finally got it right.
Yes. Yeah, we
So,
tried.
you want to take a moment and just kind of tell us about yourself,
Sure.
how you got involved in cleaning and what you've been doing?
Well, okay. I came from the corporate world back in the early 90s. I got tired of all the travel that I was doing and having people tell me what to do all the time. So I had an opportunity to purchase a very small cleaning company. It was all residential. And in fact, there were only 6 employees. And so I knew that the service industry was where I wanted to be because there was a huge demand for that in my market. People paid for service. And so I went ahead and purchased it. And within 3 months, I started getting, and of course, I had to learn the business. There was ARCSI was not around. There were no mentors, no canned programs that you could buy. There, you were literally on your own.
There were no Facebook groups.
No, no, there was no Facebook at the time. So you really had a lot of learning to do, and you couldn't go to AI and get the answers, and you
No.
couldn't, you really, I did a lot of research the hard way, the old fashioned with a book. I did a lot of reading, but I eventually,
And that wasn't easy either because there wasn't a whole lot even written about the house cleaning
no,
industry back then.
no. So a lot of it was trial and error. What mistake did I make a mistake big enough to put me out of business, or could I recoup and learn from my mistakes? Um, I did find the Building Service Contractors
Mhm.
International, and I joined that because I had already begun to get a lot of requests for commercial cleaning, and of course I had not a clue what I was doing with that. In fact, I remember 3 months into owning the business, I had an opportunity with 2 large properties to bid commercial. One was a school, and I don't remember what the other one was, but they were both significantly large. And I bid them and I got them. And 6 months later,
Uh-oh.
I
Now
realized
what?
now uh, the first night we called in my husband, his people, he got surrounded up some people from work, and because they wanted me to start right away, both of them the same night, like January 2nd. I'll never forget that. And years later, or not years, months later, when I looked at the pricing, I thought, it's no wonder I got these. I gave away my work. I had no
Mhm.
idea what I was doing. So the industry has come a long way in preventing that kind of thing from happening. So, I'm happy to say now there are a lot of resources and a lot of places where you can get information.
I remember BSCAI. I was a member as well because there wasn't anything else to be a member of. It was the
No,
closest thing to what we were
right,
doing.
right. And I remember my first convention that I went to of theirs, and I looked at, and I was one of the handful of women. It was predominantly male, I don't think it's quite so bad anymore, but not that being predominantly male is bad, but it was hard to find a place there. And I looked around and I saw all these men in plaid flannel shirts and jeans. And I thought, what have I gotten myself into? What is
Mhm.
this? This wasn't what I was used to, but it was the only source. It was like my lifeline at the time. That there wasn't anything else.
But if if you were doing commercial, it was really an excellent resource.
Oh
If
yeah,
you're doing residential, there was some community there. But I remember getting the magazine every month and opening it
yeah,
up, and it was like string mops and mop buckets and
yeah,
floor cleaning machines, and
yeah.
none of that
Exactly.
stuff we were using in our house cleaning business.
No, no,
And
no.
and they would do surveys. They would do, like, surveys of their members of, with their revenue and size and employees, and it was all awesome, but it was all commercial cleaning. It was like,
It
wouldn't it really
was.
be cool if somebody was doing that for house cleaning?
Yes, yes. And so I kept my business till the turn of the century. Imagine saying that in our age, the turn of the century.
Well, you started in the '90s, so you weren't that far away from
No,
2000.
no. And so it was early 2003 or so, so right in there, that I sold the business. I had been getting a lot of requests for um, helping other business owners. And at that time, I was operating in 5 counties, more regionally in Florida, and I had 140 employees. And I said, it's time. I really want to do something else. And my accountant kept telling me, if you're considering selling when you're peaking and you're on top. Don't wait till you get burned out and tired and then you let it go. So that's what I did. And
Okay.
I found someone from New York who was moving to Florida, and he grew up in the business and had years and years of experience. And so the transition was very easy. I sold it. He took over, knew right what to do, and it worked out really well. So it was like an American dream story. It was,
Well, that's a relief because it's a big decision to sell your business, and when you are selling it, it's still your business. You want it
yeah.
to continue to flourish in the hands of the new owner, so
Uh,
having somebody who knows what they're doing and takes care of your business certainly makes it
Yeah, it
better.
was great. And the hardest part was really, well, telling the employees and then visiting with my key clients and letting them know a transition was happening. But he asked me to stay on for a while, and I did stay on for about a year. I worked as a contractor for him in sales. Like I did all the selling for him and all the marketing. So I knew everybody in town, not everybody, but I knew a lot of people. So they put my
Yeah.
face with the company. So we didn't want to cut that right off. So I stayed and did some marketing and sales for him.
Yeah, that's,
So
that's a fortunate arrangement. That was lucky for him.
yeah, yeah, because he was new, of course, to the area. He didn't know anybody. So I'm a big believer in networking and getting your name out there and branding your company. But we'll talk more about that.
So then after that, how did you transition into consulting?
Well, as I said, I had been already, I was being asked quite frequently for advice, and I thought, I'm just going to do this. Early on in my adult life, right after college, I was a teacher, so I've always had that instinct, I guess, to work with people and teach them something and show them something. And so that kind of came naturally to me. And this was almost a throwback. And coaching is teaching, really. That's what you're doing. So it was kind of a natural transition.
So you started doing that back in the early 2000s.
Early 2000s. Yeah, yeah. I did a few workshops with other consultants, and I just broke in. ARCSI was just starting to become familiar, back to the early days of that organization, and I got involved with that. And it's interesting, the balance that I had in the business. When I bought it, of course, it was all residential and pressure washing. They were doing pressure washing, and I got rid of that right away. That was not my deal.
Okay.
So we stopped that. And then the commercial was growing and growing. And when I sold, we were about 80% commercial and still 20% residential. So I kept that division, although we just sort of flipped the focus during the time.
So in your consulting business, you went into that with like a unique set of experiences and expertise, being both on the residential and commercial side. So
Right, exactly.
how did you fold that into your consulting business?
Well, I have the ability to see the differences, to understand them, and it gives me an opportunity to work with clients that have both specialties. I do residential consulting as well as commercial consulting because I've been to both places. And I have had, and I do have some clients who do both segments, but I would say the majority do one or the other.
Okay.
So I can help them with either one, and I can see the differences.
Based on your experience, just kind of a rough guess, what percentage of your clients do both residential and commercial?
Maybe 25%.
25?
Mhm.
Now, out of that 25%, is it half residential, half commercial, or do they tend to like have a lot of one and a little bit of the
I
other?
would say it's more residential. Um, the residential folks will venture into commercial a lot more than the commercial folks venturing into residential. The commercial people tend to stay in their own lane. They don't understand residential, and they don't like it usually. And so more of the customers are residential that move into commercial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the commercial people stay in their lane, but the residential people, business owners, are more comfortable venturing over in commercial. For the ones that do both, and I guess just your experience, is one easier to run than the other?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down, commercial is easier. I think the folks that survive and live and thrive in residential only, they are my heroes, because that is definitely the harder, the more difficult to manage, in my opinion, much more.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised to hear you say that, but
Yeah.
what are the whys for that? Why do you think that is?
Well, for one thing, you're working business to business. Okay. So the expectations are different. You're not working in someone's home. You're not touching their personal things in an office. The cleaning is straightforward. You come in, you do the work. Usually the customer is not on the premises. So there's nobody to follow you around and nobody to look after you. You jump in, you do the work, and you leave. There isn't a lot of drama. Let's put it that way. There's not a lot of drama. Typically, The cleaning is much less detailed in the commercial. So what happens is if you get a residential cleaner who's cleaning an office space, they tend to over clean it, and they just clean too much. The customer really isn't paying for a house cleaning level of cleaning in a commercial property. And I'm not suggesting being sloppy or not doing the work. I'm just saying the requirements are different. So it's less detailed. The work is primarily at night, so that's a question mark. That's difficult.
That could be good, that could be bad. I guess that's just
Yeah.
depends on your situation.
I found it easier to find employees because we used all part-time employees. You really can't give someone, well, you could, but I don't advise it. You're giving someone a 5, 6, 7 hour work shift starting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 o'clock. That means they're going to be working until midnight. And I never recommend that crews are out past 10 o'clock. You really want the people in off the road.
So on the commercial side, part-time work, they're working at night, or is that a second job for some of them?
And that's why it's easier to find the people, because they don't depend on this job for their livelihood. They want it for a specific purpose, either, a kid in college or a car payment, or, in today's market, just buying food. They're looking for extra work. So they tend to show up more. They just want to come in, do their job, get paid, go home. And
Okay. So they show up more. You think they're more reliable, the part-time commercial help?
well, you can track their work history a lot better because they have a day job typically. Those
Okay.
are the ones I really like. And yes, because they're driven to make that money for that purpose, whatever purpose it is they have for working. If it's their only job, unless it might be a retired person that's looking for something extra to do, but if it's their only job and they have to support themselves, chances are you'll have the same problems that you do with the daytime, in the residential, where they don't show, they're late, they have one excuse after another, they don't have transportation. Those kinds of things typically don't happen when you use that person who has another job.
Okay. So different workforces, basically, for the folks that are doing both, maybe let me wind up back a little bit. The thing we really want to get into is if you're a house cleaning company, how you diversify and get into commercial cleaning. And I know people that do that. I know people who've got really successful house cleaning companies that make a meaningful amount on the commercial side as well. So I mean, it is a thing, and you work with a lot of your clients do that. What advice would you have for somebody who's cleaning homes? They've got a decent house cleaning business, but they're looking to they're thinking about diversifying. What do they need to consider to even decide to do that or not?
Well, they really have to think about the fact that everything is different. Everything is going to be different. I would recommend that they create a business plan for this division. Also, I think the first thing they need to do is decide if they are going to create a brand new division and go full force into this, or are they going to do it as a sidelight to their residential, where I have had clients who do this, who just take on the occasional office. They'll clean the office, they'll do a little bit of commercial. When that happens, a lot of times their pricing is not different. They'll price those jobs the same way that they price their residential jobs, because they don't really care if they get the job or not. They're not trying to build a department. If they want to build a division, then you need to look at your website and how that looks, because you don't want to send a commercial customer to a residential website. So you really need to look at
Do,
that.
do you recommend like having two different brands, maybe even two different
Not
companies?
necessarily. Not necessarily. You can do that, but it's not necessary. You can create your website so that it looks it's appealing to both residential and commercial. There can be one of the tabs can be for our residential division, click here. For our commercial division, click here. But what you don't want is to send that commercial customer to a residential site, because that's really a turnoff. Using the same employees to clean residentially and commercially usually is not a great idea, because as I said, as I mentioned, the residential cleaners are typically trained to be more detail oriented. And just to give you an example, productivity rates, production rates in the amount of cleanable, the amount that they clean per hour. In residential, that typically runs 700 square feet an hour, I'm going to say on average. Right.
That's good.
In commercial, the average is 2,500 to 3,500 square feet an hour. So a 2,500 square foot office should take a commercial cleaner an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But for the residential person, if that were a home, that would take them 3 hours. So they're trained to do more detail. So that's why using the same cleaners for commercial and residential is difficult. It's, to say the least, it's very difficult.
And I guess commercial space is just laid out. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different variations of commercial space, but as a rule,
some of the things you have to look at in commercial space or one of the big things is the density, which means how many people are working in the area. So let's say you have a 5,000 square foot office space and you have 20 desks in it and you have 2 restrooms. Okay. Now you take that's going to take you a certain amount of time to clean. Now you take that same 5,000 square foot space and you have 5 desks and 1 restroom. So the density is different. There are a lot more people using that same space. So it's going to slow the cleaners down. There's more dirt to remove, more soil load is heavier. So taking that kind of thing, and then public traffic is this like a bank office where the public is in and out all day. That's going to affect how long your cleaners are there, because again, the soil load is different. So all these things have to be taken into consideration that you don't necessarily need to in a residential setting.
Okay. And I guess when you get into commercial, there's so many different types of commercial, multi-tenant office space, medical offices, small, shops and 1,000 square foot boxes and strip malls to large box stores. If I'm a house cleaning business, where's a good place for me to start?
The best place to start is a small general office where it's easy to clean. If they have public traffic, that's fine. Banks are very easy to clean. Anything that is simple, lawyers' offices, physician, I would stay away from medical in the beginning. I would definitely stay away from restaurants and bars. They're late at night and oftentimes they can be disgusting. So, and it's tough. And you have to be considerate of your cleaners as well. Sending them out, you really don't want them on the road, driving around at midnight, trying to find, a parking place and get in. And it's just, in today's world, if you can avoid that at all, there are other companies who will do that. Let them do it.
But I'm guessing the time that you want to be in operation maybe fits into that somewhat. I suspect like some bars and stuff, the window of opportunity to clean it is anywhere from 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe till 10 o'clock the next morning, and
Yeah,
you can get a crew in there early, maybe.
you could if you wanted to. If you wanted to, a lot of owners will want you to get it clean right after the use. They won't want to wait, but you can. You can. They're just difficult. They're difficult because and you really don't want to do the kitchens for sure in a restaurant, because there are companies who specialize in that. That's what they do. And they get behind the hood vents and they clean the drains and the filters. And that's just, that's very specialized. And
Right.
so you just want to do the front of the house if you do a restaurant. Daycare centers are another thing that I don't recommend you jump right into right away. They have historically they're poor payers, and they will always tell you that the teachers are going to take care of the cleaning in between the times when you're supposed to be there, and that rarely happens. You'll find dried Cheerios on the table. The little restrooms, the little children miss hitting the toilet often. And so you're stuck with urine that's seeping into tile grout. I mean, it can be daunting. Now, I know companies that specialize in daycares and they love them, and that's all they do, or that's their main base. But starting out, I would not. Keep it simple. Keep it to the nice offices, insurance companies, attorneys' offices, and stay away from some of those unique ones. Warehouses can be tough too, so give some thought to that before you jump into the warehouse.
Okay. Frequency of service. I guess some of these customers are looking for one time a week, a couple times a week. Others want 7 days a week. Starting out, is one any easier or harder to
Well,
service than another?
5 to 7 days. 7 days are tough. They're tough for anybody to schedule because you need really two crews. Um, you can't really have somebody working 6 nights a week, and if they are ill or have to be out of town or something, now you've got a whole week's worth of work to cover. So I recommend two people for that, but I recommend thinking very carefully before you take 7 days a week. 5 days is ideal. A lot of companies have gone from 5 to 3. I would say between 2 and 3 days a week is typical. I would stay away from once every 2 weeks or once a month accounts. Those are not anything I would pursue. I would set some parameters as to what you're going to be looking at, some targets. In other words, am I going to take, am I even going to consider a 50,000 square foot office building in the beginning? No. But let's say 10,000 square feet and under is a good starting place. 2 to 3 nights a week is great. Once a week is fine. But any frequency less than once a week, I would say, is not something you want to take on. Time
Okay.
of day, you want to keep it so that it can be early evening. I would say having cleaners on the road from 5 until maybe 9 or 10, especially if they have other jobs. You want them off the road early.
So we've kind of talked about what type of commercial space to start with. So understanding that, how do you go about finding leads? I mean, I'm assuming it's a little bit different than residential from a marketing and sales standpoint. What does that look like?
Right, right. Well, there are several ways you can get outbound leads. Number one is your website is the one thing. Again, if you're seriously considering this, take a look at what your website looks like, and rework at least the home page and some of the other pages. The images need to have some buildings in them, not homes at all. So getting with someone to help you with the website. The other way is networking. That is, my experience has been, that's the number one way that you're going to find new business. And that is through business associations, business groups. Chamber of Commerce is huge. The chamber works well, particularly when you're active. It's not going to work so well if you just join and wait for the phone to ring or someone to get a hold of you inbound. It's going to work if you get out and you meet people. And at any chamber event that you go to, you should make contact with every single person in that room. Everyone should have your card, and you should have the card of everyone. And then you'd want to get on committees with the chamber. When you get on a committee, you want to make sure that it's an ambassador committee where you greet new businesses that come into town, or a membership committee where you get to call the new members or call and introduce yourself as representing the chamber in the membership committee. So or the economic development committee, that's a great one, because then you find out everything that's going on, what new business is coming, what are the plans, who the contact people are. It really is worth your time and energy to get involved in the chamber and make the connections. So those are some of the ways. One of the biggest accounts that I got early on was a $250,000 account with a bank. And I met the gentleman at a chamber after hours event. And he said, "Oh, cleaning. Oh, this is great. I think our company is putting our janitorial service out to bid. Would you be interested?" And of course, my jaw dropped. I said, "Would I be interested?" I think so.
Yeah.
And so met with them, and I got the job. And it was 11 branches, and it was $250,000. And to this day, and that was in 1996, and to this day, they have 65 branches, and my former company still has that account.
Wow.
So that chamber meeting really paid off, and you just never know when something like that's going to just fall in your lap, but you have to be there to catch it.
That's probably well over $10 million in business off of that account over that number of years.
Yeah.
Well over. So modifying your website so it makes it obvious that you do residential and commercial. Do you have to be careful doing that? I mean, if I'm looking for a commercial cleaning company, I wouldn't want to see pictures of like a young couple holding a baby. Like flip side, if I want somebody to clean my home, I don't want to see pictures of the guys in the flannel shirts and the jeans the way you described when you first started doing BSCAI.
Right. You have to separate. You have to have more generic images on the home page, but then you lead them to a landing page somewhere in your site where you can have those particular pictures. You just wouldn't want them on the front page.
Okay.
You'd want them later on in the.
From like an SEO standpoint, you'd want people to like go directly to those pages specializing in commercial or residential, almost like two landing pages on the same website.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And and it's just, remember that home page is the first impression. So that has to have both. You can have pictures of homes, or some have like the box down at the bottom that says our residential service here and our commercial service here and our contact information here. So it's almost a generic picture, and then they can just click on the box and go to that that landing page.
So I've got a house cleaning business. I understand how to clean homes, got a successful house cleaning business, and I want to do commercial. I know the types of businesses I want to be starting out with, whether I can handle and kind of get in this thing easy. You've given us some hints in terms of how we go ahead and we get leads. So I've got somebody who is interested, wants to give us an opportunity to quote on cleaning their commercial space. But that's completely different animal than doing a quote for a home, isn't it?
Absolutely. And one of the things you cannot do is quote over the phone and quote online. You really can't do that. This is a very relationship business, not necessarily more than residential, but it is very much relationship driven. So the first thing that you want to do is make that appointment, set an appointment as quickly as you can to get to see that office space. And then you'll go, within 24 hours if you can schedule it, because they're already calling other people and getting 3 estimates. So you want to be in there. So once you get there, okay, you're going to meet that prospect, and what you're searching for is getting to the bottom of their pain. What is the pain point for this prospect? What is it that is bothering them? Why are they seeking a new quote? They probably already have someone who's not performing, but you want to find out why, what it is that this customer wants, the expectations. So this is really the relationship building time. This is the beginning of the relationship. During this walkthrough, you're going to take notes. You'll exchange cards, of course, give a little information about your company, but then you're going to walk through and you're going to take notes. And there's a whole long checklist of what you're looking for during this walkthrough. Primarily what you're looking for is the expectation of the customer. So if you're walking through an area that is pristine and it's beautiful and gorgeous and you could eat off of the floors, and this prospect says, look at this, how dirty this is. This just isn't, they didn't do a good job. Now you know you've got a higher expectation from this customer, and you're not going to clean it at 3,000 square feet an hour. Okay, you just can't, and give that customer what they're looking for. So you're going to have to back it down a little bit and go a little bit slower to give this customer the detail. If you're walking through and you see that it's really in bad shape, really neglect and a lot of dirt, soil buildup, and your customer says, well, they did a pretty good job. Now you know the expectation, the bar is set pretty low. Doesn't mean you have to meet that, but just about anything you do is going to make you look like a hero to them. So you get those clues from the customer as they're talking, and you ask a lot of questions, and they will usually tell you right away, the other people brought their children here, or they never showed up, or they always missed baskets. Not filling toilet paper dispensers and missing baskets are the 2 top reasons that people get complaints. So they'll usually tell you that right away.
So when you're having that initial meeting, that initial walkthrough, does it matter who you're like? You're with somebody from that business.
Yes.
You're not just, I guess you could be walking through by yourself, but more likely you're walking through with somebody, talking to them.
Yes.
Does it matter who that person is within the organization?
You're most likely not with the decision maker. Okay, the decision maker is not the one to do the walkthrough. But you want to make a good impression on whomever it is taking you through, because they're going to have influence typically on the decision maker. So you want to be memorable and make sure they say, well, ABC company was really great. They understood, they asked a lot of questions, and I was very comfortable with them. I think they'll do a great job. If that person doesn't walk away with a feeling like that, they can say a lot of negative things and say, well, their price might be low, but the guy was a jerk, so you want to make sure that that relationship gets off. A lot of times I used to take something, I'll leave behind a little packet with pens and a notepad with my company information and leave it there with the gatekeeper, I'm going to call him or her, so that we would be front of mind, top of mind. That's really what all the marketing is, that you're top of mind, so you get to the point of the walkthrough.
Okay.
And once you're done with the walkthrough, and again, you don't do the estimate right there at the end of the walkthrough. You take the information back to your office and you work up the proposal. And that's the point where you're putting everything into your proposal, because you're going to make an appointment to take the proposal back. If they say just fax it to me or just email it to me, you really want to avoid that if you can. If they insist, there's not a lot you can do about that. But if you say, I'm going to be in the area anyway, I'd like to drop this off. If you don't mind, you might have some questions. You want more face time, as much face time as you can get with that prospect, and keep building that relationship. They're going to get a ton of not a ton, probably 2 or 3 other quotes, and they're all going to come by email, and you're going to be lost in there.
If they're going through the trouble of getting several quotes, would you expect, as a rule, do they have some type of bid package with
Yes.
a scope of work? And
Yes.
so it's kind of an outline of, this is what we're looking for, so everybody's bidding on the same thing?
Yes. They typically do have a scope of work for you to follow, which is the only fair way to do that if you're getting multiple quotes, because now everybody's bidding on the same. But when they don't have that, and many won't have it, then it's up to you to take really good notes and really dig a little deeper to make sure you understand what they're looking for.
So if you want to have an advantage in the bid process, and if they don't have a scope of work, and if you can give them one in your proposal, that might stand out.
Yes. Your proposal always should have a scope of work, either theirs or yours, because you want it very clear, should you win this account, exactly what your cleaners are supposed to do. No guesswork. And
What they're paying for, and what they're not going to be doing.
Exactly. And that is a document that you train from. Okay, that becomes your training document. This is what we're doing on this account, because every account is different. Okay. So the bid packet, you can have them printed. I had some beautiful ones that were hardcover, and I had a binding system and bound them, but those were only for the higher and bigger accounts. For regular accounts, I just used the folder, and I had with a die cut square. Mm-hmm. And then I would always took a picture of the building and would copy that, so that they would have a picture on the front of their building. And that was very impressive. They thought, oh, wow.
And that was before you were using your iPhone and doing it all. You were,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then in that proposal, there should be a cover letter, and the cover letter should be all about what you saw on the building, in the building and in the space, and not necessarily that we're licensed, we're trained, we're bonded, we offer quality service. Everybody does that. So right. You don't need to put that in a cover letter. You want to make it all about them. And the proposal as well, the entire proposal should be all about that customer. If you want some company history, you can put that on one page, and that should be at the back of the proposal. You don't want to be the dominant, it's all about me. You want it to be, it's all about you in your proposal, and you leave that behind.
Is it a good idea to include some references?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Letter of recommendation, if you have one.
That would be great if you could get that. references for similar type buildings, if you have them, that's always a plus. So if you do other insurance companies, and this is an insurance company, use those references.
Okay, so that's how I put together a proposal, but probably the most scary part of putting together a proposal is, what am I going to charge?
Yes.
You mentioned 25 to 3,500 square feet an hour. So, I'm sure that there's a whole lot to this. This is probably part of the services you provide from a consulting service
Mhm.
standpoint. But what could you share with us about how do you price a commercial job?
That's a good question. There are two primary ways. One is cents per square foot, and one is by the hour, charging an hourly rate. So let me just start this part with the fact that please don't go to Facebook groups to ask for pricing. I
Oh,
mean,
come on. That's what
you-
everybody does, isn't it?
I know. It's like the magic bullet. It's like, I have a 5,000 square foot office space once a week. What should I charge? Really?
Mhm.
I, it's really difficult. So get some
Scary, isn't it?
professional help. Yeah, it is. And people listen to that and get some
These are
info.
contracts. It's a little different. You tell Mrs. Jones it's going to cost, $150 to clean your home every other week, and you get in there and you find out that she had 5 cats that you didn't know about, then you can go back and say,
Right.
"I'm sorry, I'm wrong." But a lot of these agreements are legally binding, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah, they are.
Yeah.
They are. So cents per square foot is reserved for post-construction cleanup, and it is reserved for accounts that are 5 nights a week and large. And I'm saying over 50,000 square feet. That's
Wow.
the only time you
And
use cents
and
per
if I'm
square.
starting out, that's not where I want to start.
No, no,
Okay.
no.
What's the
So
maximum size? Like, if I have an opportunity to quote a building and I've never done commercial before, is there like a square footage that I need to stay below?
between, yes, 10 to 12,000 square feet. I would
Okay.
not go over that in the beginning.
So
Get
if
your
I'm doing
get your stake.
2,500 square feet an hour, that's still 4 or 5 hours worth of
Yes.
work a night.
And
Okay.
then in that case, you would bring 2 people in.
Okay.
You would have a team for that. Because again, you don't want this person starting at 6 o'clock at night and working for 5 hours. So
No.
you have a partner. And so, and a lot of this is route work. So they'll go from building to building to building. So you need a team oftentimes in order for them to get all the work done.
And typically these buildings are closed, and I guess you've got security, safety
Yes,
concerns. Having a couple people together is
yes,
probably good at a lot of
yes.
levels.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. It is. I do recommend it.
So how do I hang a
So,
dollar amount on that?
so the average in the industry now is anywhere from $30 to $39.40. You can, depending on your market and depending on the customer, um, you can go higher if you want. You can try it if you start losing accounts. It's really a trial and error in your market to see what your market can bear. What is it going to hold? If you're getting a lot of no's and a lot of turn downs at $40 an hour, then you're too high and you need to back it down a little bit, maybe $35 an hour. It is not the same hourly rate as residential. And again, there are those companies that say, I don't care if I get that office or not, my price is $65 an hour. And that's what I'm going with. And that's
Okay.
fine if that's what they want. But if they really want to build the commercial, they have to get a little tighter on the pricing.
So if I'm charging 30 to 40 an hour, you know, today's labor rates are fairly high, and I guess
Mhm.
depending upon what market I mean, I'm sure
Right.
that market conditions have a lot to do with what you're charging
Yes.
per hour, but
Yes.
by the time you fully load your labor and throw in some other expenses and some overhead, you're working on some pretty thin margins, aren't you?
Yes. But the difference is the revenue. It's the dollar amount.
A
because you
small
can,
percentage of a really big number is still a lot of money.
yes, I mean, if you have one customer that's $5,000 a month on one customer, how many residential customers would you need to get that revenue every month? So it is very different. And one thing I really want to make sure that we hit on is supervision and quality.
Okay.
Supervision is huge.
We're going to have to take this to the lightning round, Sharon, because we've got like 8 minutes left. So let's go ahead
Okay.
and hit on
All right.
supervision.
We'll just hit supervision really fast. Important to have someone out there with these people every night, checking on them. It's important to do proactive quality visits to your customers every month.
Every night, like every night, a supervisor would stop in and check.
Well, somewhere. They won't go to every job every night.
I'm with you, but you
So,
have a supervisor out checking on the routes and
yes,
okay.
yes. And then quality visits, proactive quality visits, once a month during the day when your contact person can see you walking the building, checking on things. They may walk with you or they may not, but you want to be visible and be seen and do those proactive visits, so you know what's happening on the accounts.
Okay, that's good advice. How do you recommend companies pay their cleaning professionals or cleaning technicians? Is it straight hourly or do they
Yeah.
pay on job ticket hour? What on the allowed
Typically,
hour?
it's hourly rate.
Okay.
Some, if the margins are really tight in any particular area, they can give them a commission, a
But
flat
if you've
rate.
workloaded it at 5 or 4 hours a night, then if they're in there for 5, you could be losing money.
Yes, they can't be. They have to stay within the budget. I
So
mean,
they know how many hours they
they
have and
know.
they can take
Absolutely.
more.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if they get done at 3.5, that's fine too if they're meeting the
Yeah,
scope of work.
yeah,
Okay. So if I'm in the residential cleaning business and I use, everything that we've talked about here, I know who I can sell to, what the size space I'm looking for, how to go through and do a walkthrough, how to put together a quote, how to price it. Okay. And really how to staff it. I need to get paid. And if I'm in the house cleaning business, normally I have a credit card on file that I just run,
right.
after every job. Doesn't work that way in commercial, does it?
No, no, it does not. You have to wait usually 15 to 30 days to get paid, but you don't wait till the end of the month to invoice. You invoice in advance of the month, because the beauty of commercial cleaning is schedules don't change. So, you know, somebody, you don't get canceled from jobs. So you know what your billing rate is for the month. So on the first of the month, you send out the invoice with due upon receipt. You should expect to get paid within the first 15 days. Typically, some will pay right away. And if they go 30, then but you're carrying that payroll for the 30 days. So it behooves you to get those invoices out at the first of the month and wait.
So is it normally like a monthly invoice you
Yes.
submit?
Mhm.
Okay. And you say at the beginning of the month, so if I have a new contract and a new building and I'm starting February 1st, that's my first day of work, but I'm also giving them an invoice on February
Right.
1st for the work that I'm going to be doing
Or February. Mhm.
with the expectation they're going to pay me. And I guess all of this is part of the
The
bidding,
contract. Yeah.
quoting, all this is
Yeah.
negotiated as part of the
Yeah.
agreement up front, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you don't want to start cleaning and then go, oh, by the way, how are you going to pay me?
No. No, they would know that during the walkthrough. You would say our typical bill invoicing process works like this. Bing, bing, bing. And 90% of commercial companies do it that way. So they would be used to it.
So with commercial, are there any special insurance considerations? Anything we would need to know regarding insurance that would be
Not
different?
really. No,
Do more
no.
commercial spaces want like certificates of insurance showing that you have it more so
Most
than
do. And you can include those in your proposal package.
That should be in your proposal. Okay. So just in general, if I'm running a house cleaning company and I'm thinking about, expanding into commercial, are there any questions I should be asking myself to help me figure out if that would be a good option for me or not?
Well, I think you have to decide how heavily you want to go into it. That's the first thing you have to decide. Do I want to create a separate division? Am I going in this full steam, or am I just going to take on a few offices? And once you make that decision, then the business plan and what do I really want from this division in my company?
So if I'm all residential and I've got somebody who wants me to quote some type of route work 3 nights a week for 2 hours, and if it's not part of my strategy, and if I don't really have a desire to go all in on that, maybe I should say no.
Right. Yes. One of my favorite sayings is, just because it has a toilet doesn't mean you need to clean it. So if it doesn't fit in your plan, then don't do it.
Very good. Very good. Well, if I'm considering going into commercial and I'm in residential, if I am in commercial and been in commercial and just want to, improve my business, you'd be willing to, there's a lot of different ways you can help people in their cleaning businesses.
Absolutely.
What's the best way for people to get a hold of you, Sharon?
Well, my website, cleaningbusinessconsultinggroup.com. I have a YouTube channel, email Sharon at cleaningbusinessconsulting.com. We have a podcast, Polishing Profits. I'm on that with 2 other industry consultants.
Who do you work with on Polishing Profits?
Ed Selko and Mark Anderson.
Okay, I know Ed. I've known Ed for a long time.
Yeah.
He's down there in Florida with you too, isn't he?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
he's on the other coast. He's on St. Pete, Tampa side.
Very good. Well, this was a lot of good stuff. And I know
good.
that, regardless if you're commercial, residential, or both, I think that you shared a lot of good stuff here that could be useful to people as they're contemplating, do I have an opportunity to either diversify or expand my business?
Right.
A couple of other quick plugs here, just while we're at the end. We're doing a foundations event. Liz is, and if she were here, she'd be talking about this, but she isn't. So I'm going to mention this. If I want more information, I just dropped the link there. March 16th through 23rd. MaidCentral, we're doing a live event in DC in April, along with an ARCSI regional event. If you're interested in that, it's MaidCentral.academy. We just did one of those a couple of weeks ago in Phoenix. Had about 40 people there. It was really, really good event. It was cold. The temperature was like 40 or 50 degrees in Phoenix. I just can't. I'm looking for warm weather, Sharon. I'm having a hard time finding it.
Come on down.
It'll be warming up soon enough. I'll be
we'll all be ready for cool weather in about 5 months.
Well, Sharon, I can't thank you enough for helping us out today. This was good. This really was good.
Pleasure. Good. Excellent. I'm happy to be here. It's great.
So it took us 4 years almost to get you on Smart Business Moves. Let's try to not. Let's try to make it happen a little sooner next time. Okay.
That works.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and call this a wrap. Next week we'll be back 5:00 Eastern. Liz should be with us then, and we'll have another awesome guest, and we'll go from there. Sharon, thank you again.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Until next week, everybody, take care.